Now I gotta ride or die.
So guys, welcome back to the channel. Today you join me from the driver's seat, the 1994 Mitsubishi FTO, a very underrated front wheel drive car that Mitsubishi made in the 90s. Interesting car because I've never actually been given the chance to shoot one of these, so I want to take it out and really understand why this is so underrated and why nobody buys them. Very, very interesting car, but let me know in the comments below what you think of this car. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, but onwards to the B-roads. So this is a 1994 Mitsubishi FTO, horrendously underrated, if I'm quite honest. Never really poked my nose into one of these to see what they were like. So massive thank you to the owner, Sam, for letting me take her car out. This is one of those cars that I do believe is heavily underrated for what it is, because the Skylines and Supras of the same generation came out and overshadowed this car. It meant that this car sort of went down as nobody really knowing what it was about, me being one of them, where I've never actually had the opportunity or really had any knowledge of these whatsoever. So what's it like to drive? That's the first question I want to sort of ask myself. Now, the first things first, this is a 2-litre manual swapped FTO. Now, this one came out of the factory as an automatic, but the owner decided that the manual variant was the one she wanted to go for, so it has been manual swapped very, very well. Actually, it feels very factory in here to actually be changing gear. The one that I'm driving today is number 41 of 207 made, out of only around 4 left in the UK of this physical car, and this car won Car of the Year between 94 and 95, and it also now has the LSD from the GPVR. Now this one is running the V6 2 litres, about 190 odd brake horsepower from the factory. It was dynoed a few years ago at just over 180, so it's only lost a little bit of power in its 24-25 year life. The thing that I've been told the most about these though is you've got to rev them, because they're naturally aspirated, because there is no turbocharger. You have to rev them to get this car going. So, you know, around 5,000 RPM is really where the crossover is. It's not like a, you know, VTEC crossover. It's more of a power band, like a 2-stroke motorbike. So third gear, around 4,000 RPM. So we'll just come on it a bit into a B road. And yeah, you really, sounds awesome, but you really, really have to rev this thing to actually get it going. Interesting because similar cars from Japan, you know, S2000s with the VTEC, you know, Type R's with the VTEC, the Toyotas with the 4AGE engines, all do the same sort of thing where you have to rev them. Sounds phenomenal when you do, but the red line is, you know, is incredibly close to, you know, 7,500, 8,000 RPM. Not a lot of people talk about that point where it's a naturally aspirated revving car. You've got to rev this thing to get what you want out of it. Inside, it feels like a fighter jet in here, sort of like, again, a Supra of the same generation, where you have dials, you have plastic wrapping round onto the doors. you have this low slung and sort of in-car feel on one of these with a very low roof line, which again, I feel gives a little bit more excitement to a relatively normal driving experience. It feels very compact and coupe-y. I'm gonna say coupe-y. It feels like that. The door mirror is really close to you as well. They're sort of like there, which is very strange. Really, really cool. It feels a lot longer and lower than it actually is. It feels a lot more exotic, I'm going to say, than I was expecting. Now, these FTOs were solely for the Japanese domestic market. They weren't sold anywhere else. So, to have one in the UK, this was actually bought in 2003. So, it's been in the UK for quite a while. And values have never, ever gone up. They've always been very low because they are underrated. They are overshadowed by their Supra or Skyline counterparts, or even GTO counterparts. I'm not saying that this is the same as a Skyline, because people get well funny about stuff like that, but even a GTO turbocharged from the same generation isn't looked upon like Supras and Skylines are looked upon. So again, another very underrated car I'd love to bring to the channel. And this is the bit that I'm gonna sort of understand why they're underrated. Now, front wheel drive, that's the first thing that will make a car very underrated. Today, down some B roads, I can't really notice the fact that this is a front wheel drive coupe. I can't really tell, if I'm quite honest. Even, you know, in previous years with the Celicas, they're front wheel drive, and they've been underrated because they're front wheel drive. But until you drive something like this, I genuinely don't think you'll get, not necessarily why they're underrated, but you'll not really understand why they're underrated. When you get up there, you guys heard that, when you actually get up into the rev, you just go back down into second, blip it down. The crossover, no one talks about the crossover on an FTO. Why do people not know about that? It sounds like a high revving Civic, that does. Let's do it again. Second gear, rev it right round, so 5,000 RPM. Nobody talks about that part of an FTO. Why have I never heard of an FTO making those noises? That sounds like a naturally aspirated Japanese car. Why? I understand the whole front wheel drive, people don't like front wheel drive, and I get that, I understand it. They prefer a rear wheel drive, and I prefer a rear wheel drive, I get that, but that shouldn't hold a car back. Today, when I'm driving this thing, it's not holding me back from enjoying it whatsoever. And when you are up in the rev, it makes the most glorious sound. That is just so interesting. Do you know, I don't get it. I don't get why these haven't gone up in value. I understand there will be people, because it's a front wheel drive and it's only this amount of power and it didn't do a turbo, people do put the turbocharged Evo engines into this. So I think, you know, I was talking to the owner, and that's the way she sort of wants to go with it, to create a turbocharged faster variant of this car. But as it is a shame that more people don't go and drive and understand these cars. And yes, I understand that the values do show, you know, these are still, the one I'm driving today is about £5,000 for a really nice one. Yes, you'll be able to buy one for £1,000, £2,000 that's got rust and various other things. This has been, as I've not actually spoke about, completely redone underneath. It's completely restored underneath, because this is a cherished car by its owner. And you can see by the paintwork, it's had new paintwork put on it with the glitter flick in it, and it is exquisite. It's so well done as well, and it has a body kit on it. And I know there's people out there like, oh, why would you put a body kit on an FTO? But it sort of works with the theme of the FTO. I think the FTO actually pulls off a wing and a body kit still in 2021. It just works on the car. Yeah, really interesting car. Delving into the whole idea that this is probably one of the best ones you're ever going to find. It is very nice to drive. It's had everything completely brand new underneath. The engine bay is immaculate. Yes, it's modified in a way, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this is a high revving, fun front wheel drive coupe that people are overlooking day in, day out. It is incredibly underrated, and at the end of the day, this is the underdog from Japan, this car. and I don't know why. I literally don't know why after driving this one today. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I'll see you all on the next one.